That was awkward. Okay, slide. Now you can see it?
All good.
Okay, thanks. Good catch. I thought I was sharing. Okay, so there will be a little legend, a black bar at the bottom of all of those, and those will sort of classify the features into those categories that we talked about in the first talk. This is a category about names, about georeferences, about digitization, about describing taxa, about citing taxa. The starred entries are new in 2021, and the purple exclamation is completely new software. It's not TaxonWorks, though it may feed off TaxonWorks data. Okay, so our first feature is the ability to produce paper catalogs. This is a feature request from Tommy and his Beetle systematics collaborators. It is still in progress, but we've made a lot of wonderful progress on the back end. And what you see on the left there is a markdown, for those of you who are technical, translated documents that you could take and then put into a Google Doc, where you would then move it into a sort of a traditional publication venue. And it's a very neat thing that's coming up. It does a lot of summaries in terms of the distribution, drawing from specimen data and literature data. It has nice type rendering sections and a bunch of other nice features, including rendering out your reference list. TaxonWorks can export to the catalog of life. In fact, they're almost, by our estimate, somewhere close to 6% of all of the species in catalog of life are going to come through TaxonWorks. They either come through the species files that are all being moved into TaxonWorks, or currently from TaxonWorks exports. So that it is one of the few software packages that let you export natively to that new catalog of life export formats. We spent a lot of time developing nomenclatural handling and parsing interfaces in the new or edit taxon name forms. They reference a lot of rich semantics. We've spent a lot of time making them intelligent so they can guess what parts might be needed to be improved. And they cover all of the sort of ICZN and the other codes of for the most part, botanicals and viral codes of nomenclature from a logical perspective. So powerful editing interfaces. You can filter in many different ways within TaxonWorks. They're multifaceted filters, collection objects, collecting events, images, nomenclature. Behind many of those core models that you saw from the previous talk, there is a filter. And they are always improving as we work with our collaborators to figure out how they need to look at the data. There's built-in georeferencing inside of TaxonWorks. You can add multiple georeferences to one collecting event and then prioritize those by ordering them. You can use point level georeferences or shape level georeferences, which is very cool. So you can draw your outline around your lake or your different areas. You can add verifiers to not only georeferences, but all of your data in the system. And you can tie protocols to most objects in the system as well. So what was the protocol behind this georeference? Throughout TaxonWorks, we have something called soft validation. We allow you to get data into the system relatively easily, but soft validations will start giving you feedback on how you can improve the records. And here you have a soft validation for Brachymeria columbiana. And you can see various parts of the in the list there that how you might improve that record to sort of bring it up to speed, to meet the codes of nomenclature. You'll see where it is invalidating, like where you're making two contradictory statements that need to be reconciled according to the code of nomenclature, etc. And some of those things can be automatically fixed for you in the system by using the buttons there. You can observe sort of anything in TaxonWorks, and it was a new feature this year where we extended our matrix model to handle as rows. You can handle specimen, OTUs, extracts, and in the future, basically any major class of data that we add to the system can be made a row into a observation matrix. We handle multiple different kinds of characters, quantitative, qualitative, statistical, just blocks of notes, figures or images. So there really is a wonderful matrix row coder. New this year, you can code in columns, And there's a number of new integrations with being able to handle very large matrices of images as well. Once your matrix is completed and coded, there's lots of ways of combining them, breaking them out into individual pieces that you can work with in a sort of collaborative fashion, then merging them all into one. You can export them into many of the formats that we're familiar with, TNT or Nexus. Dmitry Dmitriev has been working with some USDA collaborators to produce lucid versions of these for their multi-entry key. And they're also working on that. We also have a NexML, sort of an old standard that was trying to be the new standard that maybe we can make the new standard again format as well. I mentioned that there's a powerful functionality for image matrices, and a single shot really doesn't do it justice. You can think of having every cell in the matrix be a drag drop zone where you can drop images on. So Dmitry is using this to gather images for some 16,000 species, I think, across around 12, he maybe correct me on this, 12 different column types for his Akinnarenka. A very powerful interface for managing large sets of images. There's a basic content editor. So content in TaxonWorks is you can create whatever topics you want. You link those to an OTU and you have text blocks. You can insert links directly to other data objects, for example, other OTUs, taxon names, or sources through a little widget that we have, a data link widget. You can clone from content to content. You can see here on the screen, we've pulled up 2 original descriptions. Thank you again, Kojin, and make comparisons once they've been entered. You can copy from one to the other just by highlighting text. It's a very powerful, you're going to hear me repeat this. It's quite a nice content editor. Thanks, Tommy. Got you. There's excellent source management. I would say almost on par with tools that you might be familiar with, like Zotero. You can import and export CSL formats, BibTeX formats. You can attach documents to all of these. Projects in TaxonWorks have sometimes upwards of 10,000 documents internally that are shared within that collaborating team. There's a multi-entry key engine that you can use to analyze and work with your data. And new this year, we'll be demoing in the next couple of days a public interface for these multiple entry keys. You can have different languages behind them. They can be multilingual. And there's a number of very nice features that came out of Dmitry's 3i keys and his technology there merged into here. A critical, and I think, again, excellent tool is that we have a Darwin Core archive importer and exporter. So if your collaborators are all producing Darwin Core archives, you can import them and manage them within TaxonWorks. A lot of really hard work by Hernan and Jose to build this amazing tool. And it's been tested a lot thanks to our AntWeb collaborator and Dash, the pro student programmer there. So a wonderful addition. Tommy will talk about how we used it to go from 600,000 to over 1 million specimens into GBIF this year. I mentioned many different kinds of interfaces. A lot of those interfaces are at your fingertips with these radial pop-up modal forms, we call them. So here you can see that from an OTU, sort of a taxon level, you can quickly access a wide variety of different forms in multiple different interfaces. You can cite anything in TaxonWorks. So you may spend a lot of work building a nice reference set of references or sources, and you can attach those to pretty much any kind of data. And so this gives you an excellent way of tracking the historical importance of your data. As taxonomists, we all understand that we're working within the context of 250 plus years of experience, and TaxonWorks lets you cite that data. There's a bunch of other interesting features. There's a pinboard that lets you favorite objects and then presents those objects in forms as quick options for choice. There's smart selectors that predict that you might want to use a recent object in your form or your data curation. Clipboards that let you load up multiple different data pieces and have them at your fingertips. There's a big number of this year, a number of big picture summaries, so you can get classifications of preparation types for your digitization. You can look at who is contributing to your project across all of your data models there. And one of the other big summaries that we have that we're working on is just this priority roadmap at the species file group across all our projects. People are an important first-class citizen in TaxonWorks, so you can give them multiple identifiers like ORCIDs or wiki data. There's a brand new people filter that lets you figure out peoples that might need to be merged. There's a uniquify people option. You can see that people are important parts of the graph. You can visualize here the person and all of the data that they're related to. You can also create people on the fly in the forms that you're using, and this happens for a number of different data sets, so you don't have to leave your form, go somewhere, and come back. There's some excellent digitization tools, a grid digitizer that lets you break sort of uniformly distributed specimens into individual specimens, automatically give them catalog numbers across the range, etc. And thanks to a lot of collaboration with the INHS and Tommy, we have a tool that sort of lets you digitize anything you might want to digitize with respect to a specimen. There's also a staged importer as well. For those of you who are a little more technical, all of these data can be accessed via a JSON API. So you can get access to all of the data that you curate inside the interfaces outside the system in a technical way that you can write scripts to wrap on or share or integrate into your other tools. And last but not least, we've been working on, and with our fellow collaborators, a new piece of software that is called Taxon Pages. Taxon Pages is not TaxonWorks. It is a new project that lets you publicly display Taxon Pages, and we'll be making some demonstrations and discussion of that coming up in the next 2 days. These feed off of that JSON serving API, and there's a wonderful, clean, very basic, simple start to this project that people can be accessed. Yeah. So that's it. That is the feature blitz.